UK, I'll tell you what, the Labour versus Conservative Party system is about to be completely broken down, and I'll tell you why. Because the UK's got their local elections coming up, and since there's so many seats all over the country, specifically a lot of England is up for election for local councils, as for Scotland and Wales, I'll get to that later, in another video. It seems like England is going to go through a major shift in a two-party system. So if we look at since the last general election, the Tories have gone down a lot, Labour have absolutely collapsed, and Reform were polling high and high and high until you get to September 2025. What happened there? Well, the Green Party had their leadership election, and Zach Polanski went to the party and said, if you elect me, I'll run on a left-wing populist vision. And they elected him with, I think it's 86% of the party voted for him to be their leader. And then the Greens started shooting up. What did this come from? Part of it was from Labour voters who are upset about the party going further and further right, but a huge chunk of it seems to have come from Reform voters who sort of voted for Reform because they were anti-establishment and who sort of just didn't want Labour or the Tories, but now could actually see an outlet for a lot of our frustrations, an outlet which actually would improve our lives, make our quality of our lives better. So those seem to be the two main sources that the Greens are gaining votes in. The other seems to be people who are so disaffected they didn't vote at the last election, or they weren't considering voting, before September 2025, who are now inspired by Zach Polanski. What did this first culminate in? Well, Gorton and Denton was a safe Labour seat at the last general election. The Labour MP resigned. Last election Reform weren't really close. Greens polled pretty well. There's another left-wing independent, and Tories and Lib Dems were really nowhere. But then you get to the by-election. At first it looked Labour versus Reform, although there's always a very strong Green campaign. There's always a thought maybe Greens can get in front. And they campaigned very well. The Greens candidate, Hannah Spencer, would eventually come out victorious and win in an absolute landslide. I remember watching on a night. I expected her to win. I didn't think she was going to win with 41% of the vote. And Labour has generally lost their campaign tactic of saying we're the only party who can beat the right, because obviously they're not. They came third, and the Green Party just absolutely won by a massive margin. But let's go to the local elections. So these are heavily politicised, not like in many countries, because pretty much all of the council seats are contested by parties, and since there's so many councils all over England, most of the seats aren't even up for election this year. They stagger which councils and which seats in those councils are up for election, but even then, there's so many of them all over the country that you can generally draw a pretty accurate national picture from what's happening. So let's look at some projections of the seats. So both of these projections, they show Reform doing well. That is sort of, they do seem to be doing well by those numbers. I mean, you think, oh, they're in front, but they've been in front in polling for a while now, and they did a lot better than this at the last local elections in 2025, which is sort of near the height of our power. The Green Party, this says they get over 1,000 seats. Let me be clear, if they get anywhere near 1,000 seats, it is a huge win, because they basically stake their claim to being the party which can fight Reform and the party which can bring populism to the UK, left-wing populism to the UK. The Labour Party expected to really not do well. They could lose up to 75% of the seats they held before. Tories could go to maybe half. I think a good night for them is maybe where they get 70, 80... where they get 700, 800 seats. And then the Lib Dems sort of not doing anything but still gaining some seats. That's not really a slight against them. I don't know. I don't know. They're having fun. They're having a good time. Not in terms of seats, but it's cool. But yeah, honestly, if the result is anything close to this, and I don't even think the Green Party needs to get 1,000 seats, if they do, that will be just such a huge momentum shift. But if they even come second, or even close to second, then expect a huge boost for them. Expect the Green Party to be going more around the country campaigning, because then they can say, hey, our politics is very popular on a national level. They've already been gaining support. They've already been getting more popular, but this will show a lot of good results for them. However, there is an elephant in the room. In fact, two elephants. Scotland and Wales, which are having their own elections for our own parliaments, which I'll make another video on another time. So, yep. See ya, guys.